We are here.
Welcome, Heather.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. I'm so happy to be
Thanks for
talking to you
being
again
here.
this week.
Yes, I
Yeah.
know. We've been in each other's faces all week. I love it.
Not mad at it.
No, I'm not mad at it at all. You're like the best.
Yeah. Same to you. Like, you have two amazing people sitting here. Like, we can't talk too much at this point.
It's true. It's true. So thanks for joining me live. I am really excited. I haven't been live in a few weeks. And I'm glad to be back and have a buddy. It's always like nice and to have a buddy.
Yeah.
If you're joining us live, we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And we love comments. We love conversation. I love conversation. I'm just sort of assuming you love conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fairly safe to say. Yeah, definitely.
So join in, say hi if you're popping in with us in the chat, and we'd love to be in conversation with you. So Heather, I always like to talk about our how we met stories.
Yeah.
when I'm talking with other people. We met because you complimented me, and that made me feel good.
Naturally. I mean, what isn't there to compliment? Come on, like, you're an amazing human being. So, yes, I commented on one of your posts, and it was actually Ariel who connected us because you two are connected. And hey, Jupiter, I just saw Jupiter joined.
Yeah, Jupiter's here, Steven's here also.
Awesome. So we met because you posted a post about chicken. It was about chicken. Like, of all of the arbitrary things, it was chicken that connected us, which is even more funny because I'm vegan. So, like, I don't care about chicken at all. But the post that you put up was just one of those things where it was just a direct, this is what I'm looking for. Like, I don't know why we don't ask these things types of questions. And it was just such, like, for me, looking at that as an outsider, not knowing anything about you, and really only knowing Ariel and that connection, it was just such a cool snapshot into, like, your humanity and who you are on LinkedIn. And I was like, I gotta get connected with this person. And I think that's exactly what I said, where I was like, this is amazing. Like, we need to be friends. So let's do this.
And that, I love that, because then we just like dove right into like a full conversation in the comments and like right to let's get on a Zoom.
Yeah.
And I don't do that with everybody, right? Like, I don't even really respond to the like, hello, like, I don't respond to the hi, how are you? I don't really respond to the like, hey, come to my free thing so I can then sell you a thing.
Right.
And I used to respond to everybody because that's really like the most me I can be. It's like, thanks for connecting. Thanks for reaching out. Hello to you too. And it always led to like down terrible roads.
Yeah.
I made an agreement with myself to, like, if I like somebody's stuff, to tell them. If they like my stuff and they tell me that, to like interact. And I just keep building friendships, which is like,
that's awesome. Like, what better way to spend your day? Like, I feel like I have a really cool community of coworkers out here on LinkedIn, It's been an awesome platform. And especially because, like, I'm a late debut here. I've not been here that long. And so to build it up so quickly and with so many amazing people, it's just been incredible. So thanks for being part of my journey.
Well, thanks for being part of mine. I have a real aversion to the word journey because it sounds so like floaty to me. We got Gabriel joining us too. Hey, Gabriel. It sounds like so floaty and woo-woo, and also I've become more floaty and woo-woo. So I usually use the word path.
There you go.
The word journey, but like, I'm on a freaking journey. I mean,
it kind of is.
Honest,
we all are. I mean, we could be talking about the band, but not this time. It's our actual personal choice.
I was going to say that this is more than a feeling, but then I think that's Boston. Is that Boston?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, but that would have been actually really funny anyway. More than a feeling. Yeah, no, we're not good. Yeah, this is not karaoke time on LinkedIn. Sorry.
No, that's a whole different show.
Yeah.
So what made you, this is going to be like a real existential question. What made you you? Like, what made you feel like, I just got to be me. I'm coming out as me, and I am.
Yeah. So for me, there's actually two different segments to that. The first one was when I hit my burnout stage when I was in corporate. So right around 2014, 2015, I realized that the path that I was on was not serving me for the long term. And also that the path that I had selected for like hanging my hat on what I consider to be successful and all of the metrics that I was like, this is what it is to be a grown up, somebody who's successful, doing well in life. So for me, again, borrowing your word of existential, it was a little bit of a crisis at that point because I had almost like an identity crisis where so much of me was wrapped up into this corporate persona, kind of drinking from the Kool-Aid, so to speak. And when I woke up from that is what created this like, I'm going to borrow a term, almost like an unmasking process where I'm like, this is not, I don't actually believe this. Like, why am I participating in this cognitive dissonance of, treating people one way, but believing another? It just, the whole degradation of my corporate belief system happened. And then that's really what started like unfolding me. Because I very much so ascribe to the whole like having a work personality, having like a home life personality. Like I was in it, I was fully in it. And that burnout and realizing that, even though I gave everything, it still wasn't enough. It still was, it was still a demand to give more instead of an appreciation and a thank you for what had been done, which was like, I had my biggest year ever performance wise. And my performance review was, this was good. What can we do better? Right. And not just like the acknowledgement of, you killed it this year. Maybe, there's a couple things you could tweak. Sure. But thank you. Right. There was not even like a thank you from that. And I was just like, this is never going to end. Right. So that was the first real big blow up of, that doesn't matter. Like, that persona that you have on, sure, it's a part of you, but it's a socialized presentation of what you think you should be to be successful in corporate. And so when I left corporate in 2018 was the real like, oh, I could set this down. I don't have to hold this persona anymore. And even then it took me another 4 years until this year to actually be willing to be present online and to like fully cut ties with that corporate personality and say that doesn't, I will never go back to corporate, even though, yes, it's always a lifeline. Like if my business fails or if, shit hits the fan, I have an option, but I don't need to pretend to be that person to hold on to that lifeline. And so this year was another big shift for me and saying like, because I'd been exclusively like referral based. I built my business offline. Like I didn't do LinkedIn. I didn't even have a website. I didn't have Instagram. I didn't have anything. And so earlier this year, I knew I wanted to go online, but I wasn't really like willing to dive deep into that like social media sphere. And I took on a client who's in social media. And so I had this like really up close and personal view of how she grew in such a short period of time. And granted, every overnight success is like 10 years in the making, right? Like we know that. But for her, when we met, she was so positioned for this like space of explosive growth. And I saw what she did and how my support and help facilitated that growth. I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm staying in a space that's comfortable, which is not something that I believe in. So go ahead and be uncomfortable, get out there and, bring this person that I've been cultivating and this self that I've been unfolding and kind of, pulling back the layers of and pulling the masks off and, just be you. It really is me. Like everything you see on LinkedIn, I write, I think of, I do it all. So it's about as authentic as it can get. I don't really hold back a ton. So that's my longer than an elevator pitch.
I love that. We have a couple of comments.
Yes.
One is a very important question about what's hanging on your doorknob.
I have a what are those rearview mirror what are those like review mirror things I have hanging on there? I'm supposed to put it on the outside of my door to let people know that I am on calls, and I always forget. Always forget. And also Milu is the one that is my client as well, who's in social media. So
yeah, so she said it. So you met her.
me.
Yeah, exactly. And then
she's a game changer.
And we've got a shout out to her as well. I love that. And then as you were talking about, or as I think I was asking you the question about you, this comment from Ashley, somewhere between kindergarten and adulthood, we lose the ability to connect with humans in this way. Hey, want to be friends? That was really true for me for a long time. I was like, well, I'm an adult. I've made all the friends I'm going to make. And I have learned that like, if I just meet someone and I'm like, so we're friends now, they're like, yeah, we're friends. Cool.
Yeah. Why not?
So I've learned to get weird. You, I also had this like very long career where I was work Lauren at work and home Lauren. At home. And I don't think I was actually fooling anyone. Like, I think I was paying special attention when I thought of it. And then when I was actually like my whole me and my essence, people saw me anyway. And I remember one of the first times I went live, I said something about like being more me, bringing more me to the room, to any room that I'm in. Someone I worked with 20 years ago commented like, I've known you the whole time. Like you weren't fooling anyone. You were funny then, you're funny now, you know. And it was kind of a relief to think like, oh, that's cool. Because when I run into old coworkers, I don't have to like figure out which version of me I was. But you know, my career was in HR for 20 years before I was out here coaching. And there is a corporate sort of barrier that the general public puts on people in HR, and rightly so, because like at some point I may have to let you go, right? Like, I may be in the room letting you go. And that's icky. And so there's like, people want to be careful about what they say around me, and people want to be, you know, respectful. And there was a little fear just because of the job title. So every job I left, there was a handful of people who were like, oh, cool, we can be actual friends now. And now I don't have that. And I can just like do whatever the ham sandwich I want.
Yeah. And that's like, it's liberating, isn't it?
Yeah. It's really freeing to not have to think about who's showing up. Yeah. Like I'm just all me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's for me. When I realized that I'd not only taken off that persona, but I lost the ability to leverage it. When I try to go back into that persona, or if I'm in situations where I feel like I have to kind of screen myself to an extent, it got painful. Yeah. It like really got painful, where I'm like, I get down and just like, I am exhausted. Like I am absolutely like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically drained. And so I don't do it anymore. If it's something where I feel like I can't represent whole self, I try not to engage in it. With the exception of like specific obligations, like family functions and, things like that, where you kind of need to present yourself. I really just, on a professional sense, I don't have to, so I don't do it. I really don't want to do it anymore. And in that end, I mean, I've found some amazing business partners and friends and people that I hope I'll never let go of, because again, like I'm just being me. So pull in like-minded individuals, and you can never go wrong that way.
Yeah. I used to think that you should have like friends and business people. And I even still thought that when I went out on my own. Yeah. And now I'm like, well, if I need this, I'm going straight to that friend, because I trust them and I know that they're running ethical businesses, right? Jupiter says, holding yourself back takes so much energy. Love this conversation. It does. It takes so much energy to like try to be whatever the right way is, which is imaginary, right? Like we're making up this imaginary, like I'm in a professional environment, people are wearing pantyhose, I should be this kind of professional. and I won't
Right.
wear pantyhose again. But
Right.
soft pants for life.
Nobody likes pantyhose. No.
My first big job out of college was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and it was the late 90s, and pantyhose, closed-toed shoes for safety, which made sense because cars, right? But pantyhose and skirts no more than 2 inches above the knee, and there was like a ruler that people checked.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was bad news. So I worked there for 7 years, so I wore mostly skirts. Like once in a while, I would like risk it and wear pants. But yeah, that was not a match for me.
Yeah, it's definitely not a healthy environment, right? Like if you're being policed on your clothing, especially as a woman, I mean, we all kind of know what that means. That you have men that are not behaving themselves and are capable of being whole humans, and treating the opposite sex as whole humans as well. That's really problematic, like super problematic. Yeah, definitely.
That place is full of problematic things when I was there. Vanessa, you must have worked for, you did. Enterprise Rent-A-Car, rigid dress codes. They did. Yeah. There was all kinds of guys. There were trainings on how to dress, like full welcome to here's how we dress. Here's how we handshake, which is actually super valuable to learn. I don't know that we're going to handshake anymore in the future, but when I used to handshake, like, the like loose fish handshake was always so creepy. Yeah.
No, not a fan. And I mean, I think Enterprise, just picking on them because that's who you're talking about. And I know Vanessa was talking about it. Hi, Vanessa. I think that, again, corporate is corporate because I had dress codes in all of my corporate entities. I've been spoken to about my shoes at times, things like that. And I think it's really unfortunate the level of attention that goes on this like outer shell. Who cares really? As long as it's not violence or, something that is, prejudiced, anything like that, intended to be hateful or insightful like that. Who cares what you have on this outside of your shell? Like, this is what matters. This is what matters. It's less about, and it's again, I just think it's like one of those red herrings in corporate where it's a mechanism of control, right? Because I mean, I compare corporate to almost like a civilian military experience where it's all about assimilation. It's all about kind of breaking down what you think, the individualistic person, and then really becoming part of this greater machine and a cog in the wheel, rather than, who are you really, truly, authentically bringing to this workspace. And yeah, I seen it I've been in half a dozen different Fortune 100 companies, and you're in one, you're in them all at this point. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. I've had to have conversations with people about their shoes.
Yeah, I bet you did. But isn't it like, again, when you talk about the exodus, the like freeing of, I don't have to do this. Like, I can actually just represent and be who I actually am, which is somebody that doesn't give a shit about what kind of shoes you wear. Really?
Right? Yeah.
I don't care about that.
The last company I worked for before I left corporate, we created a dress code that was gender non-identifying, right? It was they had a men's and women's dress code. We created a dress code that was gender non-identifying, and that basically was like, don't come to work naked. Like, and somebody, I can't remember who, but somebody was very passionate about no flip-flops because they didn't like the thwacking sound of flip-flops. So that was the dress code, was like, don't come in with no underwear on that we can see that you're not wearing any underwear, and don't make us don't do anything like violent or terrible. Otherwise, like, see you there.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's like this structure that corporate America has set up and has a lot of trouble releasing. Like, what is the problem if I don't wear pantyhose to the office?
Seriously, right? Like, what is it? What is this going to compromise in the integrity of the organization based on the clothing that I'm choosing to or to not put on my body? It's just, again, it's a mechanism of control. It has nothing to do with the actuality of like what that is, which, I mean, you can trace back like the professionalism standards to white supremacy and imperialism and colonialism. I mean, like it's all tied in together. And so again, like for me, it's the deconstruction process of realizing, you know, I wear whatever the hell I want. And I am as professional now, if not more so, based on the output that I provide, the services that I give, the people that I serve, the impact that I make in my community, in particular, that last one, because I get to be the whole self and not a representation of what others want to see from me. It just doesn't work anymore for me. So, and I think also too, that's part of, you know, getting older and realizing that you just don't have to be anything you don't want to, you know. So much of our adolescence and teens and 20s is spent trying to find self and fit in and do more and you know, figure out our path and our journey, because there's so much pressure on like college students, right? And what do you want to be when you grow up, and that whole trope. But again, for me in my 30s, in my early 30s is when I started that deconstruction process. And yeah, it's been 7 years in the making for me to get to this point and being like, I am wholeheartedly me. Like I'm in Slack communities, I'm in LinkedIn communities, I'm in all these different groups, my clients that I have. This is me. Like I am the same in every single setting that I go to, maybe with a little bit of metering based on language, on depending on where I am. But again, like it's still so much easier to just have the core self be fully presented and bring that to the table than it is to try to gauge and figure out what is it and who is it that I'm supposed to be in every single one of these settings. So I'm grateful for it. And I'm grateful for, again, you know, meeting other people within these communities that reflect that and believe that as well.
It's funny. We have a bunch of comments and I want to get to those in a second, but I always remember like dress for the job you want, not the job you have, which was intended to be like dress even fancier, buy bigger, better, more expensive suits and all of that stuff. And I'm just looking at what I'm wearing now and like, I have the job I want. Like I'm an executive coach. I show up in t-shirts. Sometimes I wear a pretty blouse because like, that's what I feel like that day. Always sweatpants, always pants, because sometimes during a Zoom call, you have to stand up and, you know, but like I'm in soft pants for the rest of my life. That's how I live now.
Absolutely. No. Yeah. I hate jeans, and I live in Florida now. So like jeans in Florida, first of all, do not get along. Like, why? So anytime I travel outside of Florida, I'm legitimately sitting here like, what am I supposed to wear? Because all I have are leggings and shorts. Like that's all I have. I don't know how to dress anymore.
But also like being in an outfit that doesn't feel like a costume to me is like, so I don't have to think about like, what am I presenting like? Is my jacket on straight? And like, if I'm choosing what I'm wearing, then I'm choosing it because like, that's how I'm feeling the most me.
Yeah.
So, all right, we've got a bunch of comments. Let's check.
We do.
Laura has a long comment. So the first part shows up, but then I'll read the rest of it. She says, reminding me of something I was thinking about yesterday. I've spent a lot of time in my life worrying about fitting in, doing the right thing the right way. But yesterday it was suddenly clear to me, things that just make me different from the people around me, that's my personality, and I don't need to change that. Things that get in the way of those things I want in my life, those are the things I need to change. Except, of course, my ADHD and overwhelm gets in the way of doing lots of things and maybe a core part of me. Yeah, this is what a great way to think about it is like the things that make you different, that make you so you at your core, let them out. There are people who are your people. There are people now who are not my people because they're like, I can't believe you go live and you put everything out there and, you know, don't say anything about me, you know, like, don't worry. But we all have things we want to change or need to address. I live with a ton of anxiety and that sometimes mimics some of the symptoms of ADHD. And that's something I'm working on, that I'm like always working on. And it does get in the way. And also there are things that I need to change that aren't getting in the way and that I will get to, and I'll continue to grow in my business and my personal life. And there's so much freedom, Kara, to knowing that, like, that, to having that aha moment where you're like, I just get to be who I want to be.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep.
We've got a hi from Lee. Hey, Lee. And we've got an analogy. Love the analogy. It's so true. It's all designed to turn you into a cog in the machine. It's so true. Yeah. Just like make us all the same sort of vanilla blah. Jupiter says this is straight facts. Professionalism is problematic. Super, super problematic. And Vanessa says drop in the truth right here. And team leggings, hashtag team leggings. Yeah. I have a sticker from the High Rise, which is a women's community, that says hashtag team soft pants. And that's like my life, the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And Millie says, I personally love dressing up, but it's for myself and not others. Yeah. It's the skin that you're comfortable in, right? Like I don't love dressing up. So this for me is when I'm the most comfortable, and then I can be the best version of me that there is, because like, I'm not thinking about how I look or feel. But a lot of
that is like, for me, so for me to click in and out of work, it's my door. I open and close my office door. So when I'm done working, I shut my office door. And that means that I'm no longer at work. I'm disconnected from it as much as I can be, because let's be real, like brain is going to brain. So that's my like time to shut it off. I'm not available anymore. I'm not doing this. And so I know Mel, and for her, that's kind of what the equivalent of that is. It's the putting on the clothes because you're going to work. And so it's that shift in brain space that allows you to perform at a different level than if you were just, running around doing what you were doing, not at work. But again, the point is that you get to choose that. When it's compulsory, it doesn't work for many people. And I see this again as like part of that larger issue with, again, being forced into like conformity and saying, this is the way that it has to be for you. Similar to like remote work, right? Like we're going through that situation with people that are like, no, you have to come back to the office because the pandemic's over, whatever. Doesn't work for everybody.
You have to come back to work because the pandemic's over, like as though nobody's been working for 2.5 years.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, we haven't been handling life in the world and keeping things going. So it's this whole, like, it boils down to control. Like when it's an external force that's dictating appearance, thoughts, presentation, location, those types of things, it's control. What good reason do you have for asking people to do something that's not within their core belief system or the things that they need to function well? Because, we're not robots, and we've been treated as this since the industrial era, and it just is a whole other level of awakening happening right now. And I am here for it.
Me too. So, so I want to tell a little story about a conference I just went to, where I was walking around introducing myself to people. But I also want to ask, like, so think about the answer to this question. Like, what is your philosophy in like being friends, like becoming friends with people? So for me, I went to this conference for coaches about 2 weeks ago. It's the first live conference I've gone to since the pandemic started. And so my worry was much more like, am I going to get COVID? Is this going to be the time I get COVID? Right. Then it was like, are people going to want to talk to me? And I get to this conference, and it's an opening reception, and people are standing around, and like, you can see sort of a couple of people who know each other are congregating together. I didn't know anybody. I went on my own, and I see a woman walking around and looking around, like trying to figure out where to go. Not because like she knew someone. And I was like, hey, are you looking around for someone to talk to? Because me too. And she was like, hi, and she introduced herself. I introduced myself. And she said, I do know someone who's coming, but I don't think they're here yet. We chatted for a couple of minutes, and she said, you're so nice. Do you work here? like for the people who are putting on the conference. And I was like, no, I'm just friendly. And I'd rather like be awkward with another person than like into my drink. Like it's, telling me the future. And then 5 minutes later, I did the same thing with someone else. And the two of us ended up wandering around together and like became such fast friends that people were like, how long have you two known each other? We were like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I had the most fun because I just didn't care. If somebody was like, ooh, I don't want to talk to you, I'd be like, all right, why are you at a coach's conference? First of all, like we're friendly people. But then I was like, there are 400 people here. Like I can walk around and just talk to anybody. And so my philosophy has become like, it's my job to make myself feel comfortable, and it's my job to make other people around me feel comfortable because we're all weird and awkward. So I'm just going to do that. But what's your philosophy with like meeting people or engaging with people?
That's actually a really good one. I know I don't present this way, but I'm actually a hardcore introvert. So yeah, when I tell people that, they're usually very shocked by it. I don't know if I coined this term, but I call myself an outgoing introvert. So I am comfortable, confident in groups of people, public situations, conversations, things like that. But generally speaking, like I do not recharge in groups, and it's very hard for me when I have to be in them for too long. But again, similar to your philosophy, especially when I'm like meeting new people, events, that type of stuff, which I don't really go to a ton anymore because it's one of those spaces that's not preferable for me. And again, my evolution of what I've grown into. I am always interested in the other person's story. Like it's not, and I think that's part of, again, why we connected so quickly, because it's well, I want to know, where did you grow up? Like, how many siblings did you have, or do you have? Like, what's your work journey been? Like, what's your trajectory? What is this? Not the whole, like, what do you do for work? Like, that's like that trope that we get into. How many kids do you have? That type of stuff. Like, I want to know, like, what's your trauma? Like, where did you really fuck up in life? Like, what is really hard for you? Like, what have you overcome? What makes you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what's your relationship like with your parents, your siblings, your spouse? Like, all of those things are very interesting to me because that tells the story of the person, not the whole "what do you do for work" question. Right. So that's my philosophy is really just being interested in the other person and what their story is.
I love that. Yeah. And you and I, our first conversation, just like we went all the way in. There was not like the niceties of like, well, tell me about your career history and what is your executive resume, your executive summary. No, we just dove right in. Very quickly realized that we both have dogs essentially named Dog. Mine is Puppy, yours is Doggo.
Yeah.
And once you know that, there's no relationship.
I mean, it takes like a particular kind of person to have the, like, I don't know if it's like exceedingly creative or exceedingly boring. I can't figure out like which side of the fence I fall on to name your animal exactly what it's called. Like, I have a cat named Cat and I have a dog named Dog. Like, I don't know if I'm creative. I don't know if I'm boring, but it makes everybody laugh and I love it. So it works for me. And then you have your dog named Puppy, and
my dog came with the name Baby, which I thought was stupid. And she was a rescue. So she like actually didn't have, the shelter was like a, temporary thing. But she, until very recently, she's 14 now, until very recently, she looked like a puppy. And so people would see her and they'd be like, oh, a puppy. Then be like, you know me? And like go over to them because they were calling her name. Yeah. So it turned out, I don't know if it started as genius or as it started as like simple, cute, funny, but it turned out to be genius because it made her trust people right away.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of the same thing with my dog, where anytime, oh, look, a dog. She's a service dog. So it's always the whole, especially with kids, right? Because they're like, oh my God, a dog. And then like she's instantly like wagging her tail and like, oh, you know my name type of thing. And she's an awesome icebreaker at that too. Plus, I know we're like segueing conversations here. I've had instances with her being out, and because she has such a funny name, Like there was one situation in particular where I was in the airport and there was a young girl that was like maybe 9 or so, and like would not, like giving her the eyes, right? Like giving her the eyes, like staring at her and everything. And she's working, so technically she really shouldn't be petted, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But she came over, asked to pet her, and I don't know what it was, but I was like, yeah, go ahead, because usually I'm like, I can't. She's working. I found out that she had been like severely attacked by a dog when she was a child. And so just the simple fact of me being like, hey dog, can you come over here, and like calling her name out piqued her curiosity to the point where she was willing to go over and for the very first time in her entire life, pet a dog ever. Right then and there. And so like observing that healing moment just because I was being dumb and naming her something dumb had a healing moment for a child. I'm just like, wow, that's like amazing full circleness right there. It's incredible.
Yeah, that is amazing.
It's pretty awesome. I know. But yeah, so we have our dogs named Dog and Puppy. Again, like bringing the personality, bringing the truth of who we are to our conversations. I don't want to do it any other way. It's like, it's exhausting to try to figure out like, what's our next point of conversation instead of just letting it flow.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. We have a couple of other comments. One about a cat. In first grade, we lived out of the country for a while, and I got a kitten for my birthday, which I named, I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm going to guess Moya Machka, which meant my kitten in the love language. Oh, that's sweet.
Cute.
Yeah. And then we've got Lee with a couple of comments throwing back to prior parts of our conversations. I'd rather be awkward with another person. Totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Millie with a hashtag early bird.
That's my drink that I'm drinking. It's part of our little culture dynamic. It's like a nice little like brain waker upper. And I started drinking it earlier this year. Now everybody I know drinks it.
Interesting. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we will.
And then Lee also had a comment during our conversation about dress codes, about the exercise of power and exerting control on others based on someone's beliefs, values, etc. There is a component of managing and controlling through fear. Yeah, that's corporate America. But you can take your own control of that stuff. So Heather, we're coming to the end of our conversation so fast. Tell everybody like the thing that we weren't talking about, which is like, what do you do for a living and how can people contact you?
What the hell do I actually do? That's the question of the hour. So I'm a business strategist. I work with companies that are usually at around 2 to 3 years in business plus and upwards from there. There's like a revenue stabilization that usually tends to happen with my clients before they start working with me. But what happens is revenue stabilize, and then like the business starts to grow and like just feels like this monster almost sometimes that they're like, oh my God, what's my next step? So I do a 6-month map out of strategy, and I look at everything where we're talking like everything from marketing to tech to operations to people to processes. So we do like a really deep dive. My clients call it business therapy. What they refer to it as. I actually just got off of an onboarding call yesterday, and the CEO at the end was like, woo, like I need a drink. I feel like I just had therapy. This is like a whole thing we just did. So I do business strategy with a 6-month map out, and then I place a business manager to help implement that strategy and then really take the business, get it to a lean, mean working machine so that they can grow and do what they do best, which is, usually not operations.
Right. Yeah. That's amazing. Awesome. Thanks. Thank you so much for being with me today.
Yes. I love it.
Yeah.
We could go on for another hour, I'm sure.
We could go on all day. And if you're out there and you're listening and you're watching this and you're thinking, I want to be friends with people and I don't know how to do it because I'm an awkward adult, know that we all feel like awkward adults. And that it is like such a relief when somebody reaches out and is like, hey, I want to be your friend.
Yeah.
Just a relief, because then it takes away the like, are they going to like me? Are they going to respond? And also like, don't start those friendships with a sales pitch, because
Ariel put out a LinkedIn post just this morning about that, actually, where she was like, hey, I don't know why I don't reach out to people, but I realize that I'm kind of awkward about that for some reason. Yeah. So this is me being like, hey, if you want to connect, let's connect. I'm not super awkward about asking people to connect. So if you want to at any point, and I see you enough in my comments and on my page, like I'm gonna be like, hey, let's go hang out. I want to be friends.
Yeah. And that's like the toe in the water, right? Is just like comment on stuff and get yourself comfortable there. Cause like I think anybody who posts wants you to comment.
Yeah, like, absolutely. I think it was like with Jupiter, because we already had a meeting. I think it was like 2 comments, 3 exchanges where I'm like, hey, we should have a conversation. Let's go hang out and see what we can do to help each other in life. So I like, in particular, as I said, like, yes, I'm introverted, but I'm super outgoing. So if you show up in my space and you're not like super great at connecting, just know that I'll reach out to you and be like, hey, let's go do the thing.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks for being here. Thanks everyone for your comments, and we'll see you next time.
Sounds good.
All right.